Nothing is impossible if you believe. Conceive, achieve, and live by the dream. Live by the dream. Walk the talk and talk the walk and mean what you say. Throw the old life away. Throw it away. 'Cause I've got potential to be what I dream. I can see, I believe I can be, in time, potentially. In time, potentially. Whoever knew that I could go to any place my heart says so. Gonna make it deep inside, I know. In time, potentially. In time. Hey Kingdom family, greetings, blessings, welcome, salutations, welcome to another Kingdom Conversation with me, your host, Bishop Wayne Malcolm, the Business Bishop. Always excited and delighted to be a part of your life and legacy. I want to shout out to everyone who has subscribed to our channel and encourage those who are yet to subscribe to go ahead and subscribe. Believe it or not, the majority of people who watch this content are yet to subscribe to the channel. So go ahead and check right now if you are subscribed, and then just go ahead and subscribe. Why? Because we're posting fresh content on a weekly basis, and you want YouTube to notify you when we have made a new post. I also want to thank everyone who has liked the posts and those who have left comments. Those comments mean the world to me. They remind me that I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right things for the right people. So thank you so much for leaving those comments. And of course, for those of you that are sharing the link with your family, friends, neighbors, and networks, you are absolutely partnering with this ministry, making this channel more findable by people like you who are looking for content like this. Well, I'm super excited because this is the last Kingdom Conversation for 2025. And so I want to leave you with something big, something beautiful, something bold, something blessed. Throughout this particular series, I have challenged you to make some strategic choices. I've challenged you to choose time over money. I've challenged you to choose systems over goals. I've challenged you to choose leverage over labor. And today, I'm going to challenge you to choose strategy over strength. That's right. Strategy over strength. So I'm going to try and stay as visible as possible throughout the presentation. But we have our beautiful slides, and feel free to screenshot and go over this. And if you want more about what we do as a ministry, you can always join the New Breed community, and there'll be information about that at the end of the presentation. So here's a little agenda. I'm going to give an introduction. My introductions are always about giving some context to the concept. I'm going to talk about kingdom strength, God saving us by strategy, what strategic thinking looks like, and then I'm going to conclude with the fact that strategy is the solution. So here's the introduction, why strategy matters more than strength. And what I want to do here is give some context to the concept. Strength is often overrated in the kingdom. Way too many people are asking for God to make them stronger. They're praying for strength. Perhaps you're going through a very difficult season. Perhaps you're feeling overwhelmed. Perhaps you're feeling surrounded by enemy forces that are hostile and antagonistic to your assignment and to your mission. And what you're asking God for is strength, but strength is often overrated. The scripture calls us to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, not our own. I wish I had some help in here. We are to be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, not in our own. In this respect, strength is often overrated because we're assuming it's us that have to be strong, when actually our strength is in the Lord and in the power of his might. Kingdom strength is rooted in authority, not in human ability.
It is your spiritual authority that gives you strength, not your physical or human ability. Now, authority, which we're going to dive into in some detail, gives you the legal right to represent the one who has the ability. So that's the difference between authority and ability. And if I had to choose between authority and ability, I would choose authority all day. Because if I have the ability, then the responsibility is mine. I'm the one that has to move the mountains. I'm the one that has to defeat the enemy. I'm the one who has to open the doors. I'm the one who has to make the way if I have the ability. But if I don't have the ability, but I have legal authority, the legal right to represent the one who has the ability, then I can simply voice activate. I can simply command. I can demand. I can instruct, right, with authority, knowing that I have the legal right to represent the one who has that ability. And of course, we see this with law enforcement, right? So the police officer wears a badge, and that badge is the legal right to represent law enforcement, to represent the might of a government, to represent a kingdom. And so that police officer's words have power, and that police officer can say, stop in the name of the law. That police officer is not depending on his own might, power, strength, or ability, but is actually leaning on the might, power, strength, and ability of the system that he or she represents. So, God's strength works best when we acknowledge our weaknesses. Wow. Are you suggesting, Bishop, that my weakness could in fact be a strength? Yeah, I am suggesting to you that God's strength is made perfect in our weakness. That when we acknowledge weakness, we create an opportunity for God to manifest strength. Covenant means that God's strength is your strength, right? The fact that we are in a covenant relationship with God means that His strength is our strength. And yes, it also means that our weakness is his weakness, right? And that's a whole nother lesson. But if God has a weakness, it's us. And if we have a strength, it's him. I wish I had some help in here. I'm going to say it again. If God has a weakness, it's us. And if we have a strength, it's him. So you were never expected to win by force. You're never expected to win by force. You're expected to win by strategy. And this is why I'm going to challenge you to choose strategy over strength. This is not me suggesting that you shouldn't build up yourself, that you shouldn't get smarter, stronger, wiser, taller in your area of excellence. Absolutely not. But this is me saying that sometimes the odds that are stacked against you are significant. Sometimes the hurdles before you and the mountain in your way requires supernatural intervention and requires more than you can muster up in and of yourself. Perhaps you're facing a situation right now and you already know that you need more, but then there's someone in your ear telling you that you need to be stronger. Well, I'm not going to suggest today that you need to be stronger. I'm going to suggest that you need to be strategic. I wish I had some help in here today. Kingdom strength. What does it mean to be strong in the Lord? Kingdom strength is authority, not ability. Be strong in the Lord means stand in his strength, not in yours. Be confident in his might, not in yours. King David in Psalm 23 said, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." My comfort, my confidence, my assurance, my peace comes from God's ability, God's strength, God's might, not my own. And that's great, because if I'm feeling weak and vulnerable, if I'm feeling as though I don't have, what it takes to overcome the obstacle in front of me, that's okay. Because that obstacle in front of me is nothing, absolutely nothing compared to God and his might. So this was the attitude that David took into his battle with Goliath. This was the attitude that David took. David didn't think, look, I'm going to defeat this giant in my own might, in my own strength. David didn't have the physical strength to win, but he did have a strategy from God and authority to represent the one who had the ability. So he said, I'm coming to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel. I'm coming to you in the name of the Lord of hosts. This means I have authority, the legal right to represent the one who has the ability to end your reign of terror. Right? So this is David's attitude. I'm coming with authority, not ability, and I'm also coming with a strategy. So he took up 5 smooth stones and he utilized his sling, and this was a strategy. And of course, it's not a strategy that any of the other soldiers would have employed, because they were soldiers, but David was a shepherd, and David understood how you defeat the beasts of the field that are threatening your flock. And the tools of the shepherd included the rod, the staff, and the sling. So David employed a strategy, and he came with authority. He didn't come with ability or the fighting skills necessary to defeat the champion of Gath, Goliath by name. Now, the same is true of Samson. Samson was the strong man. He was so strong he could carry the gates of a city on his back. He was so strong that he slew 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey. He was so strong that he demolished the temple and arena of Dagon. Samson was strong, but his strength was supernatural. It was not natural. Like, we have no evidence in the Bible that Samson looked like a bodybuilder, like that he looked like a muscle man, like a strong man. Potentially, he looked like an ordinary man, but his strength was supernatural. And so kingdom strength isn't about your ability, it's about your authority to represent the one who has limitless, boundless ability. It's your authority, which is your right to represent omnipotence. So Samson may have looked ordinary, and the fact that he looked so ordinary proved that this was power from God. This was supernatural. God's strength is perfected in weakness, according to 2 Corinthians 12 and 9. You know, Paul had a thorn in the flesh, and he asked God 3 times to take it away from him. And God said to him, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Wow and wow. God's strength is made perfect in weakness. So I don't want you to be ashamed of your weaknesses. I don't want you to feel insecure because of your weaknesses. In fact, I want you to realize that your weakness is in fact a strength if you acknowledge that you need God in that particular area of your life. Your weakness makes room for God's power to be manifest. Okay? Your weakness is God's opportunity to manifest his strength. Your deficiency and your insufficiency is an opportunity for God to manifest his sufficiency. And so if actually you were strong in every area of your life, you might get it twisted. You might think that you won the battle, that because you are strong, because you are wise, because you are skillful. And what happens when you start glorifying yourself is you stop glorifying God. And see, God doesn't want any flesh to glory in his presence. So he wants you to know, okay? It doesn't matter that everyone else knows. It matters that you know that if it hadn't been the Lord who was on your side, you would not have survived to tell the story. It's important that you know that where people think you are strong, right? That is God's strength, because you know that you're weak in that area. And see, I meet a lot of people, right? Speakers, preachers, teachers who look so bold and confident when they're on the stage. And then they'll admit to me in private that they're actually quite shy. They're actually socially anxious. They're actually very nervous. They don't feel very confident when it comes to the stage. And I've had to say to them, well, look, no one here knows that. No one here can see that. You look so confident. You look so strong. And that's beautiful, because that is God's strength being made perfect in their weakness. Because they know that they're weak in this particular area, then they have learned how to lean on him who is strong. Is there anybody here that's ready to lean on him who is strong? You must acknowledge your weaknesses in order to experience God's strength. And this brings me to the subject of covenant. Very important that we actually understand what covenant really is, because the relationship we have with God is fundamentally a covenant relationship. And in a covenant, the two entities become one entity. The two become one. So in the ancient world, you know, two tribes would cut covenant, right? And the basis of the covenant would always be strength and weaknesses. Okay, so perhaps one tribe was a farming tribe and the other tribe was a fighting tribe. Now, the fighting tribe needed food and the farming tribe needed to defend and protect their flocks. So they would cut covenant with each other so that the fighters can say, we have food, and the farmers can say, we can fight. But this was not based on their own might, strength, or ability. This was based on the abilities of the one they were in covenant with. That is the nature of a covenant. And so when Paul says, be strong in the Lord, that's covenant talk. And in the power of his might, that's covenant language. That's saying that God's strength is now your strength. So your weaknesses do not matter because of the covenant that you are in with God, who has all the strength you will ever need. That's also what Paul means when he says, look, my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory. That's covenant talk. What Paul is saying is, look, your financial statement doesn't actually matter because you're in covenant with the one who owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills, all the silver and all the gold, and has riches in glory. So he'll supply your need according to his riches in glory. Your confidence, therefore, is in his ability. Okay? And what he's counting on is your use of authority. So kingdom strength is authority. It's not ability. You don't win because you're strong. You win because he is with you. I wish I had some help in here. Now this brings us to the real point here, that actually God saves by strategy. And this is why my counsel is that you choose strategy over strength. When it comes to strength, you want to operate in authority, realizing that you have the legal right to represent the one who has the ability. Don't overrate strength, and don't be ashamed of or embarrassed by your weaknesses, Understand that your weakness is a strength if you acknowledge it and put it in God's hands. What you should choose over strength is strategy. Why? Because God has a style. God has a way. God has a pattern. And if you study God's ways, which is the way he does what he does, you're going to see that God has a style. God has a pattern. There is a way that God answers prayer. There is a way that God delivers his people. There is a way that God promotes and prospers his people. And it's important for you to know the way, because if you don't know the way that God does it, you won't realize that he's doing it, right? You'll think it happened some other way. Or, you will opt out of the program because God is confusing you, because you don't understand the way that he operates. Now, the way that God operates is as follows: that deliverance comes through instruction. Deliverance comes through instruction. What does that mean? It means that if you ask God to deliver you, what he's going to give you is an instruction. If you ask God to save you, what he's going to give you is a strategy. If you pray to God for something, what God is going to give you is a plan. And see, if you don't understand that God answers prayers with plans, that he saves us by strategy, that he delivers us by instruction, then you're going to pray, right, for deliverance, right, for a miracle, for a breakthrough. You're going to pray for something, and you're going to be waiting for an answer that's never going to arrive, because the way God answers you is by instruction, by strategy, by a plan. Let me show this to you. I'm going to give you some biblical examples. So first of all is Noah. God has revealed to Noah that the end of all flesh is come. He is going to destroy the world with a flood. But that Noah had found grace and favor in his sight, and that God would save Noah and his family, and that he would save animals for the purpose of repopulating the earth. So Noah has this revelation. But I want you to notice that Noah doesn't just fold his arms and wait for it to happen and wait for God to save him. What God gave to Noah was a plan of salvation. God said, Noah, you need to make an ark of gopher wood. You need to pitch it inside and out. You need to make it on 3 floors, and you need to put rooms in the ark. You need 1 window, 1 door. God gave him instructions, okay? And God saved him by a strategy, and he was saved because he obeyed instructions. So obedience to divine initiative and divine instruction is actually how God saves you. Now, I'll show this to you again. The house of Israel was saved from the death angel, and on the night of the Passover, right? The firstborn in the land of Egypt would perish that night. As the firstborn of humans, of cattle, all the firstborn would die. But God gave Israel a plan of salvation and said, take a lamb, sacrifice the lamb, take the blood of the lamb, put it on your door, on the doorposts and the lintels of your house, roast the lamb, consume the lamb, be fully dressed with your bags packed, because that night you're getting out of Egypt. What is that? That's instructions. That's a plan. That's a strategy. God saved the house of Israel by strategy. The same was true of Gideon. Gideon, with an army of 300 men, defeated the host of the Midianites, and he defeated them not by might, not by human power, but by a spiritual instruction, by strategy. God gave him a strategy, and his strategy was superior to their strength. Isn't that great news, family? That God's strategy is superior to your enemy's strength. I wish I had some help in here. The same is true of Jehoshaphat, who overcame a massive alliance an alliance of enemy, aggressive, hostile, antagonistic enemies formed an alliance. The children of Moab, Ammon, Mount Seir. You can read about it in 2 Chronicles 20. They came against Jehoshaphat, and God saved Jehoshaphat, and God saved the house of Judah. God saved them by a strategy which didn't involve swords and spears and shields and arrows. It involved tambourines and singers and praise and worship. Okay, so it's obedience to the instruction that brings about the deliverance. Abraham, with his 300 plus servants, defeated an alliance of kings, the Northern Alliance, by strategy, not by strength. Moses and the house of Israel defeated Egypt by following God's plan. And so choose strategy over strength, because that's God's style. The wars in the Bible were won by strategy, not by size. The strongest side didn't always win. The best strategy always won. What God gives you when you ask him for deliverance, when you ask him for breakthroughs, when you ask him for a miracle, when you ask him to save you, what God gives you is a plan, a pattern, a strategy that guarantees the outcome. Why is strategy so important? Because strategy, a spiritual strategy gives you supernatural advantage. A spiritual strategy gives you supernatural advantage. So as you go into the new year, it's not important that you are stronger. It is important that you are strategic. And I want to break that down. Your strategy gives you supernatural advantage. Your strategy gives you leverage. It means that you can get more done in less time with less effort. Strategy identifies the target that brings maximum impact. Strategy says, okay, you don't have to fight all of them. You don't have to fight all of this. You need victory in this one area right here, because if you get victory in this one area right here, it's going to demolish the impact of all the other areas that are of concern to you. That's called strategy, because strategy deals with what and why. What are we going to attack? What are we going to defend, and why? It matters. Strategy focuses your effort where it matters most. So the key insight is that the answers to your prayers actually look like a plan. So let me dive into strategic thinking. What does it mean to think strategically? There's a difference between strategy and tactics. There's a difference between strategy, and people get it confused. They think that their tactics are strategies, right? So a strategy is always conceptual, whereas tactics are always operational. A strategy addresses what and why, what we're going after and why we're going after it. But tactics describe how and when. Like, how are we going to do this? With what tools are we going to do this? When are we going to strike? These things are tactical, but strategy says, well, is it even important that we fight that battle? Because there are some battles that are not really important. So you got to choose what battles you're going to fight and why they are important to win. Strategy is about leverage. It's not about labor. Strategy asks, how can we get the most done in the least time with the least effort? Where strength says try harder, strategy says think smarter. And thinking smarter means knowing which battles to fight in the first place. So you're not called to fight every battle. The believer must choose their battles carefully. Why? Because some battles cost more than they can reward. There are some battles that you lose even if you win, right? So you're going to go into some battles, typically battles God never sent you into. You're going to accept an invitation to fight, and the devil will give you plenty of invitations, right, to fight. But you've got to turn the other cheek and choose your battles carefully. Why? Because there are some battles that even if you win, you still lose. Why? Because you lost time, you lost focus, and you lost energy. And if you lose time, you lose focus, and you lose energy, even if you get victory over that particular enemy, you're losing because your strategy really deals with the war, not simply the individual battles. And you have to choose the battles that are going to give you victory in the war, the big picture. So, strategic battles are the battles that save your time. Strategic battles are the battles that protect your focus. Strategic battles are the battles that conserve your energy. Strategic battles are the battles that advance your assignment. So, if I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight to redeem my time. If I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight to protect my focus. If I'm going to fight, I'm going to fight to preserve or conserve my energy, and I'm going to fight to advance my assignment. But all these other battles, I'm going to ignore them. I'm going to ignore them because they are nothing more than smoke screens and distractions designed to derail my greater destiny. See, you have to choose the goals that create momentum. Not all goals matter equally. Not all your goals matter equally. You must focus on the few goals that will make the other goals more realistic, more achievable, and even inevitable. So you may have 50 goals on your goal list for the new year. You may have 100 goals. You may have 20 goals. But actually, not all goals are equal in value. Not all goals matter equally. What you're going to find is that there are a very few of those goals that will have the biggest single impact on the others. That if you can achieve those particular goals, it's going to make the other goals more realistic. It's going to make them more achievable. It's going to make them more probable, and in many cases, it will make them inevitable if you can achieve the goals that matter most. That's thinking strategically. That's not giving the same energy and the same effort to everything. It's giving energy and effort and focus and concentration to the things that are going to have the biggest single impact on the other things. It's the principle of the kingpin. In bowling, okay, you're not trying to hit all the pins. You're trying to hit the one pin that guarantees the fall of all the others. So strategic thinking, right? Systems matter more than goals. So I've challenged you throughout this month to prioritize and choose time over money, to prioritize and choose systems over goals, to prioritize and choose leverage over labor. And today, I'm challenging you to choose strategy over strength. And when it comes to strategic thinking, your systems matter more than your goals. Why? Because your goals are descriptions of the outcomes you desire. They are decisions to pursue the outcomes you desire. They are destinations in terms of where you want to be over a given period of time. Fantastic. So all you have is a description, a decision, a destination when you have goals. But a system is the mechanism for manifesting. The system produces the outcomes that you desire. I'm going to say it this way. Your routine is responsible for your results. Your routine is responsible for your results. So if you have financial goals, right? If you have financial goals, what you have is a description of a destination you desire. You have a description of a outcome you desire. You've made a decision to pursue this outcome that you desire. But it is your routine that will be responsible for your results. It is the system that is the mechanism for manifesting. The same is true if you have physical health and wellness goals. The same is true if you have business professional goals. The same is true if you have domestic and family goals. The same is true as if you have spiritual goals. The goals, the outcomes you desire, okay, will be the result of a routine or a rhythm or a system, a mechanism for manifesting. So here's the strategic way to think about the new year. It is to make the system the goal. Woo! Make the system the goal. So that instead of the goal being to weigh a certain amount, to lose X amount of pounds, to be able to do this particular thing physically, whether it's to walk, jog, run, cycle, right? Instead of making that the goal, make the system the goal, which is the routine that will be responsible for these results, which is now going to involve a combination of nutrition, rest, and exercise. Typically, it's going to involve that. And then you're going to get into the rhythm. The goal is to get into the rhythm of nutrition, rest, exercise. Nutrition, rest, exercise. You're going to get into the rhythm of that. And as you get into the rhythm of that, that is the system that, or the mechanism that manifests your goals. That is the routine responsible for the results that you get. And because the system is better than the goals, it simply means that you'll surpass those goals because you have a system. People who have goals without systems literally lose motivation once they achieve the goal. But people who prioritize the system over the goal will literally outperform the goal and be able to set new goals because the system is the rhythm and the routine that is produced, that's responsible for the result. So make your financial system the goal. Make your physical and wellness system the goal. Make your spiritual system the goal. Let your business system be the goal. And this is called strategic thinking. All right. I'm going to close with this. Strategy is the solution, right? The kingdom does not advance through raw strength. It advances by divine strategy. God is not asking you to be stronger. He's asking you to be strategic. Woo! God's not asking you to be stronger. He's asking you to be strategic. Your future victories will not come from your muscles or your hustles or your exhaustion. It is not going to come from your life of labor, your sweat, stress, or strife. It is going to come from clarity, obedience, and leverage. Your victories are going to come from clarity, what's important and why, which are going to bring about your priorities, obedience to the instruction, and the leverage, which is the supernatural advantage you get from spiritual instructions. So what you want to be doing is saying, okay, God, here's the outcomes that I desire. What is the strategy? Here's the goal. What's the strategy? Here's the prayer point. What's the strategy? We need to be asking the God who saves by strategy for strategy, for instruction, for clarity about where to focus our time, our efforts, and our energy. All right. That was fantastic. Of course, I'm wishing each and every one of you a very happy new year, and I have some very important announcements for you. I'm going to do my best to bless as many people as I possibly can in this new year. And I want you to be one of them. And we have a ton and a plethora of resources that are available to you, many of them for free. So do not leave until you watch these ads. It's the Business Bishop bidding you Godspeed. Peace out and shalom.
Hey, I'm Bishop Wayne Malcolm, author, coach, and founder of the Epic Kingdom Network. If you've ever felt like something's missing in what you've been taught about Christianity, you're not wrong. Most of us were taught that heaven and the hereafter are the goal, prize, and sole objective of the faith. But the original message of Christ taught us to engage, to influence, and to transform the world. Believe it or not, Jesus didn't die to get us into heaven. He died to get heaven into us, and then through us into the earth. What if I told you that Christianity was never meant to be a religion, but rather a relationship and a global revolution? A divine intervention, not a man-made institution. The original message and mission of Christ was hijacked, diluted, distorted, and replaced with a religion. My new ebook, Kingdom Theology for Kingdom Citizens, is not just another devotional, it's a call to action. A bold reintroduction to the original message of Christ, a message of dominion, not escapism, of transformation, not tradition. You'll learn what it means to rule and reign with Christ, to steward wealth with purpose, to influence government, education, culture, and business as an ambassador of heaven. This book will shift your lens, stir your spirit, and set you on course with divine clarity. And right now, for a limited time, I'm giving you free access to the digital and audiobook versions. No cost, no catch. Just click the link in the description, grab your copy, and step into clarity.
Hey there, entrepreneurs! If you enjoy the teachings of Bishop Wayne Malcolm, I've got something amazing for you. Introducing the New Breed Community, an exclusive online platform for kingdom-conscious entrepreneurs, professionals, investors, and creators. This isn't just a community, it's a movement where we discuss and explore kingdom concepts. Here, kingdom-minded people connect, share, learn, and grow together. Inside, you'll find exclusive content from Bishop Wayne Malcolm, including special sessions just for members. And the best part? It's free to join. The New Breed Community sits on the Heartbeat platform, where Bishop Wayne Malcolm is excited to meet you online. Join us for weekly Q&A sessions with Bishop Wayne and get exclusive insights that can transform your life. Love to read? Join our book club to feed your mind and spirit. Got a prayer request? Post it and let's lift each other up. Have a testimony? Share how God's goodness is shining in your life. We're more than just a community, we're a movement. Discover the powerful relationship between your profession and your purpose. Join us now on the Heartbeat platform. Connect with us and let's grow together. Bishop Wayne Malcolm and the New Breed Community are waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? Hit that join button and step into a world of connection and growth. A warm welcome awaits you. See you on the inside.